Welcome! In this episode of Coolgrad videos, we're going to talk about how to mail your application to the university. So this is really an important video. Most of the universities these days accept electronic application packages, but there are still some universities that accept physical hard copies of your application. And if you are mailing your application as a hard copy to the university, these are the guidelines you need to keep in mind. What kind of envelope to use? So use a strong, sturdy envelope and not a thin, shaky one. So it has actually happened in the past that there was one Indian student who mailed all the contents of his application in an envelope that wasn't strong enough. And during the shipping, the envelope got ripped apart, it got torn, and all the contents spilled out. And the university received just an empty envelope with his name and address and the university address on it. So this has actually happened in the past. So use a strong envelope, preferably something that has bubble wrap on it. For example, this is a good envelope. It's a thick, sturdy envelope, and it has the bubble wrap inside it. So I would buy this kind of an envelope. So make sure it's at least big enough to hold an A4 size paper. So it has to be big enough and strong enough, and it has to have a pre-glued strip here. So make sure you write the address correctly and use a big enough envelope. So my point is, don't use an envelope that is so tiny, and don't fold all your documents and put them congested in one small envelope. Use an envelope of at least this size. So some of your documents might be smaller than this. Like, for example, if you're getting your recommendation letters, you may be folding them into, 3 folds and having them in a small envelope and then getting it attested by the recommendation provider. And maybe your marks cards might be small, folded and, sealed across the flap in a small envelope. But your statement of purpose and your cover letter, they must all be on A4 size fold paper without bending. How to write the to address? So write the to address in block letters and address it correctly to the particular program at the particular department at the particular university. Use blue or black ballpoint pen. So write the address of the university exactly as it appears on the website. So remember that writing addresses in India is very different from writing addresses in the US, and is different from how you write addresses in the United Kingdom, and that's different from how you write addresses in Germany or Singapore or Australia. So whatever is listed on the website, write it exactly the same way. And sometimes in India, people are habituated to providing very long addresses. So they usually list out their apartment number, and then they say it's on this particular street, and then it's on this particular main road, and then it's behind this particular temple or close to this market. They give all these landmarks and then the town and the city to make it easy for the postman to locate this particular address. But that's not the way it works in a lot of other foreign countries. So usually they write the to address. They just mention the building number, which street or avenue it's located in, and then the name of the city and the zip code. It actually happened to me once. Like I was going somewhere for an interview in New York, and the address was 110 William Street in Manhattan, New York City. And even the taxi drivers didn't know where William Street was. And then they were discussing among themselves, and they used the GPS, and they figured out that if you get off at Park Station, you take Fulton Street, and then somewhere there is a tiny street called William Street. So my point is, addresses are very concise in the United States, and write it exactly as it is. So, and don't forget to write the country and the zip code correctly. So many people think if I'm applying to the University of Arizona, they would assume the postman to know that Arizona is in the United States, or if they are applying to some university in London, Canada. Remember, there's also a London in the United Kingdom. And some of these cities are located in multiple countries. So there's a Memphis in Tennessee, and there's also a Memphis in Egypt. There's like so many confusing things that can happen. So write the name of the country as well and the zip code correctly. How to write the from address. So please don't write the to address and from address both in the front of the envelope. The postal agency may not accept it. So if you write the to address over here, even though there's provision to write the from address here, I would highly recommend that you don't write the from address in the front. It's good to write the from address, your address, at the back. So this actually happened to me once. I was applying to a few universities a few years ago, and I consolidated all my applications and mailed it to my uncle who lives in Maryland, and he forwarded it to all the individual universities just so I could save some money. And I had written the to address over here for each university, and I wrote my from address at the bottom here. And when my uncle took it to UPS, USPS, or FedEx, none of them would accept those applications to be mailed because the from address was written down here. So my uncle had to take it back home and actually erase the from address using white ink, and then write the from address at the back and then mail it. So write the to address in the front and the from address at the back. This is kind of important. And include your student ID or reference number on the envelope and also on every document inside the application package. So in case your application is lost or misplaced, either at the university or somewhere else, it can easily be tracked to your student ID. So write your to address here and write your student ID usually at the top right over here. What documents to include in your application while mailing it? So usually you include your cover letter. That should not be bended. It should be usually on an A4 size paper. Write your cover letter, get your recommendation letters, and your resume, statement of purpose, attested copies of mark cards or grade reports, financial statements if required, and your additional extracurricular certificates. And so how to order these documents inside the envelope? Usually the cover letter is always first. So that lists out all the contents of the application. Put the cover letter first, and then the rest of the arguments, rest of the contents of the application, we usually order them in increasing order of size. So if your recommendation letters are folded nicely into 3 folds and sealed, if it's in a small envelope, put the recommendation letters first. And then if your marks cards are in a small envelope, put your marks cards after that. And then put the statement of purpose if it's on an A4 size paper, and then the financial statements. So order them in increasing order of size. Use binder clips and not staples. So make sure you don't staple these documents together, and use a binder clip to hold them together. It's always good to use a binder clip and put it inside the application package. So don't glue or staple the documents together. So this is important. Glue the envelope properly. Even if you're using an envelope that has already got a pre-glued strip on it, make sure you use some additional glue, strong glue, so that the envelope won't open up at any cost. You need to be doubly sure. You can use some cellophane tape in addition to the glue to make sure that the envelope doesn't open up and the contents don't spill out. So apply the glue neatly. So in India especially, if the quality of the envelope or the glue is not good enough, it could open up. So to be doubly sure, use some cellophane tape. And don't wait until the last minute to mail in your application. Make sure your application reaches the university at least 2 days before the deadline. Try to account for postal delays, account for emergencies like 9/11. Anything can happen, and if your application doesn't reach the university by the deadline, they're not going to wait for you. So make sure you mail it well in advance to reach the university department at least 2 days before the deadline. And when you're addressing the envelope to the university, make sure you address it to the particular program and the particular department, not just the university. For example, if you're applying to Rice University, there is a computer science department, there is a business school, there is a mechanical department, there are so many other departments. You have to address it to the particular program or the particular department. For example, the MS in Mechanical Engineering program is different from the PhD program, and the admissions committees, the offices are different. So address it to the particular program of the particular department of the particular university. If you have relatives abroad or friends abroad, sometimes if you're applying to 8 or 10 universities, you can consolidate all the applications and put it in one package and mail it to your relatives abroad. And they can forward it to each one of the universities. That way it could probably help you save some money on postage. So, mail using a trusted shipping agency. Use something like DHL or FedEx or UPS, which is well known, and they give you a tracking number so you can keep tracking your package. There are a lot of local courier shipping agencies in India which are sometimes unheard of. They promise to do a good job and then your package might just disappear. They might take your money and run away. It has happened to people. So use a trusted shipping agency and keep tracking your package. If your package is delayed, let the admissions committee know. This brings us to the end of the video about how to mail your application. So make sure you use a strong and sturdy envelope, glue it well, and order the items correctly and mail your application.